Let me ask y'all the opening question so we can move on and get to some of the other topics we have. Hit that like button if you have not done so. Subscribe to the page, leader. I ain't gonna lie to you. We having such a great discussion. I really do feel that way. But we previewed them, so we're gonna talk about them. But I really, really do feel that way on forget the other topics because I think this is a good one.
Yeah.
And listen, this next question may take us into 40 minutes, and then we may spend 10 minutes on the Bulls front office. It is what it is. Do you feel like, and I want to go down the line of you guys here, do you feel like saying we're going all in on youth, we're going all in on this draft? Because that's essentially how Ryan Poles has moved this offseason, which I ain't gonna lie, for lack of a better term, big balls GM.
Yeah.
That's a big balls GM. Hey, I effed up on the D-line. I effed up on how I moved in free agency. I effed up on the amount of money that I spent last season on this line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fix it in the draft. Do you think that that's the right call for Ryan Poles going into this draft here? Is that going to be the answer for an offense that we feel, and listen, it may be different when we get to the season, but an offense that we feel is going to be a playoff caliber offense, dare I say, an NFC championship caliber offense as they head into their second year of this offense?
I'll keep my answer short and to the point. Yes, because you have a GM who, again, like was already said, he's paired up with some really good brain trust in the coaching staff, and that's what matters the most. And then I feel like Ryan Poles is learning from his mistakes, and that's a good GM when he could admit that, okay, I didn't do it right the first time, the second time. Now, process is getting better, and you've seen, like I said last year, the young guys impacted our team. I think that's how you do it. Move.
For me, I believe yes, because you can't double down. Because he spent a lot of money, as you says, on the line, on veterans, and he wasn't gonna be able to double down his money and get this in. And because what if it didn't happen? Somebody got hurt again. So the best way is to get the youth movement, because you have more bites of the apple.
Yeah. I thought there was more gonna be there. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Sorry.
How he ended that, I thought there was more coming. Am I wrong on that?
No, I was listening. We were short to the point. So
we didn't have to be short to the point.
Yeah, that was just me.
Copycat league. Defending champs right now has one of the youngest defenses in the league. Average age is 25, 26.
Yep.
Look at what they were able to accomplish. Look at what they were able to do. I believe, Kobe coming from that brings that championship experience. So you have a young player who's also a vet and Super Bowl caliber plus Super Bowl winning player coming in to help, define and build out that locker room for that room there. You also brought in some other veterans with championship experience to help with that young group. So you start building up this farm system. I think it's all part of a process. And I don't know if I don't look at it the same as like, you say big boss GM, like I think that's just the way the league is going, period. You see what works, you see what's happening, you see the amount of money that the Seattle still has in cap because of how they structured everything. And you go, hey, that I have opportunity to replicate that. Yeah. I'm going for that. I think that's just what every couple years the league goes through, that cycle of just seeing what works, copying that, and just exhausting that until, something else comes along. So I think it's just part of the course, to be honest with you.
To me, it's the right move. I question if it's the right GM.
Ooh. No, I'm Poles we trust anymore?
Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, listen.
Dangerous.
Right.
Hey, if we're being honest.
Talk about your brother like that.
That was crazy. If we're being honest, when has it been in Poles we trust on the defensive line? And Poles we trust has been on the quarterback.
Yes.
It has been on
safety,
wide receivers.
Correct.
It has been on DBs or cornerbacks and safeties.
Correct.
Maybe you can throw linebacker in there. Name me the D lineman.
This is the change. This is potential for the change.
And so that's why I say I think there's a lot of pressure on this draft. I think that there is a lot of, if he can't find the answer in this draft, I'll say this. I don't look at the Rams GM as he can go out there and find everything. I think he's been phenomenal at facilitating trades that have allowed him the time to figure certain things out based on who's coming in there. And realistically, it's Sean McVay, right? But I look at that and say, right, you can make a mistake. You can have somebody who might bite a chick in a bar. But if I got Devontae Adams, it don't matter. Right? You can have somebody who can lose the Super Bowl in Jared Goff. But if I go out there and I trade for Matthew Stafford, it don't matter. Right? Like there are certain, like and maybe the Bears are in that situation. I'm not saying they're not. But I do think that this draft will set the precedent moving forward on, okay, he's not good at this. We need to find another way to do it. Because the other thing that we can be realistic about, he also hasn't been good at signing defensive linemen. He also hasn't been good at trading for defensive linemen. Like this, it's not like there's a good defensive lineman road that you can look at Ryan Poles and say, well, this is the avenue that he actually is really good at this. Yeah. And as good as I'll say this, as good as he was on the offensive side, that's what I need him to be on the defensive side. And you put yourself in a position where you're not going via the draft, where you're not going via free agency, where you're not going via trade, you're going via the draft. So now when we get into this season, if your defensive line looks subpar, I'm not going to look at Dennis Allen and say, DA, you effed up. I'm going to look at Ryan Poles and say, well, you've been here 8 years and I ain't seen a good defensive lineman that you brought in yet.
You know, my only pushback to that is this. Like, I know the whole topic is defense, but when you said, hey, you question the GM getting it done, and I totally understand where you're coming from. Every GM has a blind spot.
100%.
This may be his blind spot.
That's a bad blind spot to have. That's a real bad blind spot to have.
Very important.
You are very right. You know, and that's why I brought the Rams up, right? There are certain blind spots the Rams have, and we've seen how elite they are. But that's a real bad blind spot to have.
I'd rather you have a blind spot in a situation where your team led the league in takeaways and you put all that together and you were able to tool that. And you got a competent offensive line together to keep your star QB upright.
I would love that.
Like the way that he's been able to work around his deficiencies says more to me than whether or not he comes out with an impactful defensive lineman here. No matter what we say, it has been and will be for the next couple of years all about the offense being able to put points on the board and staying in the game. When you said it wasn't, we were split on that. It was all about Caleb's development. I said, no, it has to be about that. No, it's all about Caleb's development. You have to get Caleb to take the next leap. The next part, you got to get Rome to take the next leap. That team will go as far as that offense is going to take them.
Which elite offense that didn't have a defense won a Super Bowl in the last 10 years?
10 years.
The original Kansas City.
Oh, the first Kansas City team, right? That's the one.
I was
a bit of an anomaly, you think?
No, but they're not. But they
little bit of a wild card team.
But they didn't. They had made Chris Jones made impactful plays, and I think the corner made an impactful play right when they needed it. So they didn't have a great defense. But we don't have defense. But you had plays that needed to be made, and they was made.
We have no defense. That's not the Bears. No, we don't have no defense. We may
middle of the road
in run stopping and certain pressures, but we don't have no defense. You don't lead the league in takeaways and not have a defense.
But here's the thing, right? Leading the league in takeaways usually is not replicable. And
takeaways also mean the fumbles we created, stuff like that. That's part of defense.
It's usually not replicable. And you let a lot of those players that had those takeaways go. On top of that, you also live in a world where you are one of the bottom teams in run stopping and one of the bottom teams in pass rush pressure. That means you probably won't be representing Chicago in the Super Bowl. I guarantee you let it get to 2 more years of Ryan Poles not being able to build a defensive line. And Bears fans, Chicago will be calling for his head.
So my only question, though, and this goes back to P-Kid's point, because I was going to ask you, bro, do you think that at a certain point, though, because you can say every GM has a blind spot, and we can kind of gloss over that for a time, do you think that GM should still have improvement on that blind spot, given the staff around him getting better? Because I agree that if you said Eberflus and whoever the Jamokes were that were on the offensive coordinator line, I'm with you. I would think that he would stand pat with that. But now you got Ben and Al and all these, the
brain
offensive
trust.
lineman coach, like the whole team.
Right, the brain trust.
Do you think that weakness should kind of slowly start to turn a little bit stronger?
It better be.
Absolutely, because that's part of the staff that he hires to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
That's part of the scouting team to go out there and do that. Like, Ryan Poles is going to get the credit and he's going to get the axe for any decision that's made.
Yeah.
But it's more than one person that is a part of that conversation. When that player gets drafted, very rarely is it, oh, that guy just went rogue. No, it's like a committee that comes together for these decisions, and you have to make that work. So I'm not walking into this draft thinking that Ryan Poles can't draft. I'm thinking, hey, DA is very pivotal in that conversation.
Yeah.
This is a reflection of him on who gets drafted based off of their positioning as well. So I'm just at that point where it's like I have more faith that Ryan Poles is conscious and cognizant of his deficiencies. He's put the right people in a room with him, and he's going to give them the room to do their jobs as well and have input, and he's going to give them the tools necessary or the picks or whatever to do what they need to do. And when it doesn't work, there's equal accountability in that. That's just how I'm looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say equal accountability is who's accountable for building the team. If the wrong players are picked on the defensive side, we're not going to look at Dennis Allen and say, oh, God, you gave him the wrong pieces. We're going to look at Ryan Poles and say, hey, you kept doing what you was doing.
No, you can't really say that because who's
the GM?
No. The GM has the last say.
The GM has the last say.
You get the praise, you get the blame.
But you also
are the scouts hired by Dennis Allen?
No, but I'm saying,
are the people that are looking at the college football players that are consistently playing hired by Dennis Allen? I'm just saying, how does it work? Usually there's really good pieces that the scouts come in the room and say, we think that you would love this guy, and then they tell the coach to come look at him. That's how it works. But it's not Dennis Allen going through college tape and burning through it every hour.
But they also, as you said before, Dennis Allen has a specific defensive player that he needs to make his system work.
Yes, he does.
Just like Ben Johnson has specific offensive players that he needs to have his system work.
Yes, he does.
So therefore, your scouts are being told, find these players with these attributes. So
that's true.
So Poles has the final say so, yes, but it is a collective that I need these type players. I can't make these type of players work, but I can make these type of players work.
Yes.
But you have to have talent. And this goes where the brain trust, like I said, comes together like Voltron. So if you ain't coming together, then you're not going to win.
And yes, the DC and the OC have input on those staffers.
I'm letting you know what kind. Well, I mean, Ben Johnson is the one that is, but yes, yes, Dennis Allen is saying I want a 6'2" between 6'5", 260 pound to 280 pound defensive end. That is what he's telling the scouts to do. Who employs those scouts?
The GM.
Who gets fired if those scouts don't find those players?
I don't know if the GM.
Most times.
Because we switched GMs and still had some of the same scouts.
But that
depends on if a scout is really good at finding that position, right? Like if Ryan Poles got fired, I would expect the DB guy to stick around. Like the DB guy just every draft we just like, well, I don't know, he can play, I don't know.
But the DC and the OC do have input on who is on that scout team, though.
No.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. Not at all. You have no input on who Ryan Poles hires as his scouts. Now, you can say, I like this guy and he has found me X, Y, and Z player in the past, but Dennis Allen didn't show up and say, hire 4 scouts for me. Your GM hires the scouts. Your GM sends people out to look at the players that find these pieces. Now, some scouts also get fired because their specialty may not be what Dennis Allen is looking for on the defensive end.